Welcome to Strange Weekly News. In this show, we'll be taking a look into the news and headlines to pick out curious reports of the strange, the weird, and the mysterious. Anything from UFO news to science advancements, the paranormal, and stuff labeled fringe science and fringe phenomena. Each news item we go over in the show, I will place all of the links in the description box below once this live show is over, as well as chapters on the timeline index. Welcome to all my first time viewers and listeners. I hope you find this show informative and that you'll subscribe to this channel and check out my other shows and content. As I said last week, I'm truly surprised by the amount of comments that I've received and also the messages of people stating that Weekly Strange News has helped people fall asleep and they find my voice soothing. And as an insomniac myself, I am so glad I can help so many of you fall asleep, but hopefully have some interesting or mysterious dreams. Please make sure to share this video with anyone or groups or forums for those who you think may be interested, because the growth of this channel has a lot to do with you, my wonderful viewers and listeners. I like to say hi to some people in the live chat. Be the Arrow, Anthony, Jonaside, Bob, Les Sweep, Sweet, Shemp, Hemp, Darkstar, Sever, Brian, Michael. Hi, Rose. Hi, creepy little book. John, did I say Michael? If not, I'm saying it again. Hello. Kurt, welcome to everyone watching this show live. Before we get started, I would like to mention on Tuesday, my guest for Shifting the Paradigm was monster expert Dr. Emily Zarka, the host and scriptwriter for the very popular YouTube series Monstrum. And this upcoming Tuesday will be a Bigfoot researcher and investigator, Emily Fleur. We had a very interesting conversation. On Wednesday was the Unknown Zone, which is usually a short 8 to 5 minute video on a very specific topic. And this Wednesday was on the Alaskan Triangle. Then on Thursday, aka Thanksgiving, on Mysteries with a History with Jimmy Church of Faded Black Radio, we covered everything related to DB Cooper or Dan Cooper. And for those that don't know his story, he hijacked an airplane in 1971 asking for a ransom of $200,000, and he escaped and was never found. Now, that money in 1971 is equivalent to about $1.5 million. That's a lot of cash. And he escaped. So, this channel has a bunch of different shows each week that are very different from each other. So, now let's get into some strange news, but I gotta bring in our co host, Puck the Puck Wedgie. Hello, Puck. How's it going? Good? Good. All right. So, let's start off with our first article. It is UFO related because that's how this channel originally all started, with UFOs, and that kind of branched out into everything weird and mysterious. But let's take a look at this. And the nice thing, it has some nice captions too, so you can read while I read this really fascinating article. So Canada, I didn't know this, Canada has a UFO landing pad. Who lives in Canada? And if you do live in Canada, did you know about this? Because I sure didn't. I was like, what? So, this landing pad is located in a small town of St. Paul in a remote region of the Canadian province of Alberta, which only has a population of about 6,000 people. That's a town. That is darn tiny. St. Paul UFO landing pad was built in 1967. Yeah, I was shocked. And this one was actually the first in the world. So, like, for this town, the hope was to attract tourists and Martians to this very small community. But of course, there have been no indications that any Martians have actually visited this little tiny town in Alberta. But it has attracted a good amount of tourists. Actually, if you type this into Instagram, like hashtag St. Paul or hashtag UFO landing pad, you're going to see a lot of photos of people posing in this area. And I'm like, I don't mind going to Canada and checking this place out. But what about you? Would you say? Michael says, I love the way you say Canada. Am I saying it wrong? Canada. I think that sounds about right. Well, the landing pad, may not have attracted anyone from outer space, but it did attract the Minister of National Defense at the time, Paul Hellyer, and he actually flew in by helicopter and officially opened the pad. The landing pad is a 30-ton raised platform, and the backstop of the platform is a map of Canada that is made up of stones provided by each of the Canadian provinces, meaning every little province in Canada was totally game for creating this UFO landing pad. This makes you question, huh? How many of them believed in extraterrestrials when this was being made in 1967? But this pad is actually a symbol of unity, and it signals that all are welcome and not just people here on Earth. It's a very short article, but when I came across it, I was like, what? It goes to show that, well, many of us, at least here in the United States, think that this kind of interest in UFOs is only in the US. It's prevalent throughout the entire globe. And we're going to get into another article a little bit later that goes to show that the United States obviously is not the first country to have a UFO office or a UFO research group, but there are a bunch of other countries that have done it way before the US did. But we're going to jump into something a little bit more paranormal. Ah, thank you, Mark. I feel a little better. Definitely saying Canada right, Christina. With my dyslexia and verbal dyslexia, when someone says I'm saying something wrong, I it gets into my brain a little bit and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, am I really saying something incorrect?" And it makes me feel very dumb. So, I don't want that to happen for me or for anybody else. Adrian says, bus stop for aliens. Definitely. I hear that Canada has some pretty good food. It has some great scenery in the summer and springtime. And if you love the snow, it's a great place to be as well. I've actually never been to Canada, so I'm only speaking from photos that I've seen online, but it seems like a very nice place to be. Great place to visit if you're an extraterrestrial. And if you're going to go, make sure to go on the landing pad when you go and visit there, right? Of course. So let me share my screen for this next image. So we actually have a paranormal story going on here. And we've covered a few here on Weekly Strange News of haunted dolls. And I have another one for you. So I'm going to share my screen here of the actual doll that is believed to be haunted. As you can tell, it's one of those rag dolls, which I will be flat honest with you. I already find this doll kind of scary looking. These were a bestseller at some point. I don't know how many decades ago, but every little girl had one. And when I look at this, I'm like, I would not want one of those in my room. Thank you. It looks pretty darn freaky. Now, I did have a few friends back in my infancy who had these dolls on their bed to sleep with. And I'm just like, ugh, gosh, it's scary. That would give me nightmares. I'd rather have like a teddy bear or Puck the Puckwudgie to cuddle at night versus a rag doll like this one. So a husband and wife have told how they believe their Annabelle, Raggedy Ann doll is possessed after a series of terrifying events that unfolded for them. Lee and Lindsay Stern, 37 and 52, who run the Museum of Haunted Objects from their home. Oh my gosh, in Rotherham, South Yorkshire, which let me tell you is already a mistake. If you're going to have a haunted museum, do not also sleep there. No, you do not want to mix your work with your like private life. No. Well, I think these people figured that one out because they say that they have caught the doll on camera flipping over their Ouija board table. There are videos on their Instagram of this doll doing some pretty wild stuff. Is it true? Is it not? Either way, this is a really bizarre story, and these two people, not only do they have a haunted museum, well, a museum of haunted objects, but they're also paranormal investigators as well. Once again, you can just type in their names, Lee and Lindsay Steer, and you're going to find them online. And they have quite a few just really odd videos on their Instagram. But they also believe the doll is behind a near car crash and caused them to suffer mysterious illnesses, which once led to Lindsay being in the hospital for an entire week. That's a pretty big claim, if you ask me, stating, yeah, that doll right there, Miss Raggedy Ann sitting on my desk, yeah, she almost made me die and she made me really, really sick. That's a pretty big claim, but we've heard this time and time again, and we've actually covered stories like this here on Weekly Strange News. Pretty weird. Tyler says, Night at the Museum? Absolutely. Also, that was like one of my favorite movies as a kid because it made me want to actually go into the museum at night and watch everything come to life, just like Toy Story. I would if I had any toys, I would like pretend I wasn't looking, like they're in their most recent Toy Story, and then you would look and you'd be like, "Are you moving?" And it never worked. So I was pretty sad as a child at the end, trying to experience those things, but it's because of those movies and those TV shows that sparked this imagination in children that I really think that we should also keep as adults as well. Because remember, all these amazing movies that we see as children were created by adults, meaning that those adults either never grew up or they have incredible imaginations that is so rare amongst us. At least I think so. So, great movie. Wait, I didn't see that movie. You didn't see that movie, Hides? Go watch it. It is really good. The first one's great. Second one is just okay, but still pretty good. Ah, Mark, those Cabbage Patch dolls were definitely the worst. Oh, yeah, they were. They were not in my time, which I'm really grateful for because yeah, those ones are pretty freaky with those really big cheeks. I'm gonna pass. Hard pass. Well, in the museum, Lindsay has also felt something grab her neck tightly and has seen things fly across the room with no logical explanation, which she believes could be because of their doll, Miss Raggedy Ann. The doll is an identical copy of a notoriously evil doll in the US that inspired the Conjuring and Annabelle horror films, and they believe that theirs may contain the spirit of the original. Also, super big claim going on there. So, the couple actually opened this museum in March of 2018 after being encouraged by their fans on Facebook. That's how you do it. You just gotta get a little bit of a nudge and then you're off and doing your own thing. Personally, this is a personal opinion, which I very rarely share, but I'm sharing it with you right now. I do not think it's a good idea to have a museum of haunted objects and then to also live in that building. Separate your work life from your personal life. Don't mix them. So, yeah, of course, they've encountered some pretty odd things. But Lindsay says that she first saw a ghost actually 25 years ago when she was alone one day at the dressmaker's where she used to work. And she saw a curly haired woman watching her who then walked through a closed door. She said, even when I saw my first ghost, I felt calm rather than frightened. I grew up watching all sorts of aliens and ghost movies, so I was always interested in the paranormal rather than frightened by it. But some of the Annabelle's actions scare me. And that was all quote in an interview that she did. So the doll was made in the same factory that looks exactly like the same as the original doll, which many paranormal believers think is possessed and causes car crashes, and then was given to Lee and Lindsay in October of 2019, which was the time that they got married. So imagine getting like a haunted object as like your wedding gift. Either you're going to love it or you're going to hate it. And I'm not really sure how they're feeling about this one. But knowing that they are both very interested in the paranormal, they are now paranormal investigators, they own a museum of haunted objects. I think giving a haunted doll to them as like a wedding gift is pretty unique and it's going to be remembered forever. But as they have claimed, it has caused a near car crash and several illnesses. So, kind of a catch 22 there. But if you are interested in the paranormal to the extent that this couple is, would you want a haunted object as a wedding gift or as a birthday gift or even as a Christmas gift? Because we know Christmas is coming up. Would you want one? Or like if you go into the thrift store, right? And then you're like, "Oh yeah, that doll." Kind of like what John Russell said last week. He found Pig Pig, his little pig plushie, and he knew that one was haunted and he's like, "I'm going to buy it. It's mine now." Would you do the same? As for myself, if I was going to get one, I wouldn't take it home with me. Might like leave it in the car, or if I had like a storage unit or like a building, right? I'd probably leave it there, but I don't know if I would actually like take it home with me unless I was doing some tests like an EVP session, then maybe I might take it home and then put it back to where it belongs, wherever that may be. But what about you? What would you do? Laura says, depending on who's haunting it. Very true. The only kind of hauntings I would like are like ghost cats. You don't have to clean up after them. You don't have to feed them, but they'll still love you and they'll kind of like purr up next to you or scratch you. I don't know, depending on what kind of cat you have. The cats I grew up with were all antisocial and they didn't love me. So it's a bit heartbreaking, but it's okay because I still loved every single one of them. Marty says, as a kid, my sister had a Raggedy Ann and I had a Raggedy Andy. Was it haunted? Marty. I mean, also for the time period, if you like grew up with these types of dolls and they were normal, then yeah, it's not going to be weird. But for myself, I just never grew up with dolls in general, so I just find them all a little bit freaky. Mm, it's just me. Which was like really hard for my parents growing up when I was a small little muffin. They're like, "What do you want?" And I said, "Really, no dolls, thank you." It's just me. Garaji says they bite. Freaky. I'm gonna pass on that one. Jonaside says no haunted dolls. Mm. Full Auto says, how does one determine? And we're back. Well, it looks like we had an internet outage going on there, but that is okay. We're going to keep going on strong. So, we were talking about the Raggedy Ann doll that's believed to be haunted. I haven't finished that article just yet. So, we're almost done with that, but I guess it could be considered creepy, right? That we are talking about something haunted and then the internet went out. Or is it just random? I don't know about you. Let me know in the live chat if you thought that was weird or totally normal. I would like to state, just to preface, that I have not had great internet all day today. So, just want to put that out there. Well, continuing with this article, and I look a little bright and I do apologize for that. But let me share my screen here to give you a visual aid while I continue reading this. Did I just freeze again? Oh, no. Okay, good. We're good. We're good. Okay, let me just share this. Down, down, down. Here we go. So this is an actual image of these investigators' doll with all their other dolls, which are also very freaky looking. But we're talking about this one right here, the Raggedy Ann doll. And when Lindsay and Lee's doll first arrived in the Museum of Haunted Objects, Lindsay and one of her close friends got a mysterious illness and narrowly avoided 2 car crashes. Lindsay said, I became really ill for some reason. I was in the hospital for a week, and the doctors to this day still do not know what was wrong. I got horrendous pains in my stomach and I was being violently sick, and they just couldn't figure out what it was, which was unusual. One of our good friends became very ill as well, and he got like these ulcers in his mouth and all sorts of things. It really was just bizarre. In the first near car crash, a white van nearly went into the side of my car, and I actually had to get off the road. In the other, I was in a roundabout, and I sort of pulled out, and then another car pulled out in front of me, which I wouldn't like to say roundabouts are scary if you are not used to them. Learned that one the hard way. So she's had a few really odd encounters. And then Lee, the husband, stated Annabelle was sitting on a chair at our Ouija table, and it's very solid and it's got a metal leg holding it up. So there's no way it should have fallen or collapsed. One lady put a little speaker on the table, walked away, and then the next minute the table just collapsed. There is no logical explanation as to why that should have happened, and it was just the way Annabelle was standing straight at it. After they decided to put Annabelle in a glass cupboard on a secure hook to avoid anything dangerous happening again, something happened again. So on Halloween night, 2022 at 3 a.m., their CCTV showed Annabelle stepping out of the display cabinet legs first. That is pretty darn freaky. And it is a really big claim. I actually was not able to find that video, at least on their Instagram. But if you're able to actually pinpoint that particular video, please send it to me. I would love to see that. I couldn't find it. So right now, it's kind of an empty claim, but either way, that's pretty darn freaky. So Lindsay explained that she, Annabelle, is in a glass cabinet and then the door is like pretty stiff. So you literally have to pull it open. And she shouldn't have fallen legs first because her head is heavier than her legs. Once again, Lindsay is talking about the Raggedy Ann doll. Well, she continues with this statement, stating that we've got some cat balls, which basically flash if someone touches them, and then all of a sudden they just come flying down the steps. Also, very weird. And it's like the last 2 weeks since Annabelle stepped out of the cupboard, the museum is getting more and more dangerous, and things are getting physical. We're used to dealing with this kind of thing. However, it's getting more and more intense. It's building up energy big time. When I was filming a reel the other day, which reels are videos for Instagram, something literally grabbed the back of my neck out of nowhere and squeezed it quite tightly. It wasn't painful, but I didn't want to be in that room. And it did make me think. So, something major is going to happen. And that's kind of what scares us. That was the quote that she was stating. So that's pretty weird. If this was happening to you, would you keep the doll and do more tests? Or would you get rid of it? Would you burn it? Or would you just give it to somebody else and be like, oh, here you go, here's a gift? Even if you're interested in the paranormal, go ahead and take that. What would you do? If it was myself, I would go one of two ways. I think I would call up a few paranormal investigators that are more knowledgeable than I am in this and see one, what to do, or if they want it. Now, if they didn't want it, I'd probably burn it. Be like, into the fire pit you go. We don't need you here. It's probably what I might do. But of course, if that were to actually happen, I don't know what I would do because it seems like in the moment, right? You're not always necessarily rational, and your ideas might change in that moment as well. So I think at this point, I would say call up a few friends, and then if nothing, put it in the fire pit. What about you? Jessica says it'd be in the trash. Marty says buy a play tea set and play with it. If you really need friends, that is the way to go. Hugh says I'd sell it. Just give it to Zach. And I'm assuming you're referring to Zach Bagans. I thought about that. That is a potential thing to do. But this one is pretty freaky. Well, I have another kind of freaky article for you, but it's something to do with the paranormal. And actually has to do with the spiders. Now, with this picture I'm going to show you of a spider, it's a cute little picture in case anyone has arachnophobia or just finds spiders freaky. Don't worry, I got you. You can't be scared of this adorable looking spider. Look at those cute little big eyes, and only has two instead of eight. So that's a plus. And the background is purple. Who doesn't love the color purple? Well, this article is pretty freaky, even if you like spiders or if you don't. So this particular species of spider, the I think it's called, yeah, the huntsman spider, the Australian huntsman spider, which in Australia everything is freaky there. I would like to just kind of preface a little bit. It's about 1 to 5 inches big, and it can eat anything from bugs to frogs and even possums. Can you imagine a spider eating a possum? Well, this huntsman spider can definitely do that, and it can be so big that this species of spider, they don't actually spin webs. So they're kind of like the bird-eating spider as well, where they kind of like burrow in the ground, which those spiders are apparently as big as a turkey plate. So for those that had turkey yesterday on Thanksgiving, imagine that plate. Now imagine a spider on that plate. You're not eating it, but you're just kind of looking at how big it is. Yeah, bird-eating spider is that big, and it lives in South America. So make sure when you go there to bring a flamethrower. Well, this spider, what's really cool or freaky, depending on your perspective of it, it was studied by the Australian University, the Research School of Biology, that this particular type of spider is actually a social one. Let me explain that. So when we think of spiders, we tend to think of those that kind of like hang, in a web and they sit in the corner and they kill things. But certain species of spider have independently evolved in a very similar way to become more social. So, at a hypothetical Australian spider gathering, it's the huntsman spider that would be hanging out in a group while others kind of lurk in the corners on their own. So, much like us, spiders tend to socialize over food. A lot of spiders are, pretty private. They like to be alone. But this one, they actually like to sit together and they eat in the same place, even sharing food. Who would have thought that spiders share food? I didn't. I also don't really know much about spiders to begin with. All my knowledge is Charlotte's Web. That movie, yeah, that is my knowledge on spiders. And even then I was like, no, no thank you. Well, this one, they're kind of more social. They share their food. They hang out with their little buddies when they're eating together, like what you did yesterday on Thanksgiving, hanging out with friends or family, or even virtually as well. So they kind of have this level of a relationship, just like the way that people do. And I found that so weird. Well, I would like to say that the title on this article is actually Big Brains Change. They bring change. So, inside the social life of spiders, meaning that the huntsman spider has a bigger brain than maybe a few other spiders that just aren't as social as this one. Oh my gosh, Deborah says, Australian here. Hello, Deborah from Australia. I have several huntsman spiders living in my bathroom. Are you okay with that? If you are, great. If you're not, I'm very sorry. That is kind of scary. I named my favorite cat Wilbur. Oh, super cute. It's a good movie for kids, but I'm just personally just not a fan of spiders to begin with. Party like spiders. That's right, Mystic. In this case, you definitely can. With these guys, you do want to be careful though, because they sound dangerous. So, arthropods, or like including spiders, of course, but also insects and butterflies. They actually don't have brains like humans. Instead, they distribute their neural tissue widely, meaning their brain can take up space in their entire body. But research shows that social spiders, such as the Australian huntsman and the African social spider, that's in the title, right, have a more developed nervous system than these species that like to be alone, meaning their brains are a little bit bigger. And in the research that was conducted by the Australian university, are stating, look, I wouldn't be surprised if we find that more and more arthropods and other insects have these type of social behaviors more than what we expected, because we know, at least for humans, for us, for mammals especially, being social is incredibly important. We need it to thrive, we need to survive. We also need it to understand our environment, but also for our brains to develop the way that we want them to. So, being social for us is crucial. But who would have thought that it could also be the case for spiders as well? How does that change your viewpoint on how you see spiders, or is your perspective still the same? I found it odd. I found it strange. This is weekly strange news, so of course we're covering it today. But I'd like to hear what you think about this. Camel spider isn't really a spider, is it? I hope you're not asking me that question, because I don't know too much about spiders, like I had mentioned. So hopefully that question wasn't for me. I don't prefer any, says Jessica. I'm with you on that one. I mean, like, I don't mind spiders. They do a great job. They're very important to our environment. But I prefer them to be like over there. Now, if it were to crawl on me, I will be screaming like you have no idea. Now, I'm not scared of spiders. I just don't want them crawling on me. I am scared of cockroaches, however. They could be over there, they could be right here. I don't care. And the ones that fly, those belong in hell. That's where those ones belong. Everything else, other, bugs and reptiles and things like that, nah, I'm fine with those. It's just cockroaches, specifically flying cockroaches or the hissing cockroaches. Also terrible. If you're using this, never mind, actually, I'm not going to say that. Mm. Right, Mystic? They're wild. Neurostream, thank you so much for the super sticker and supporting the RV fund. I really appreciate that. Thank you. That's right, Hides. That's where they belong. But while I don't like these types of creatures, I also don't really have the courage to kill them either. I would like to mention that I do have a Buddhist background, and so I do treasure and appreciate all life. And so I don't like them and they belong in a certain place in the world, I will not actually kill them. And I will also try my best not to, but if I had to, which I can't stand it, but if I had to, I kind of scoop it up in a cup and I like throw it outside and I'm like, yeah, please stay over there and don't ever come back. Thank you. That's right, Laura. I hate silverfish, says Cliff. I don't I don't know too much about those to be scared or not scared of those. But if I live in the ocean is monster soup. Everything that is scary lives there. There's always monsters in the ocean. It's because it's monster soup. Moving on to our next article. As I had mentioned at the very first one, well, at least people in the United States think that the UFO topic is really a US thing. It's something that's all over the world, has an interest over the entire globe, and there are multiple UFO research groups and UFO offices as well. So in France, the Study and Information Group on Unidentified Aerial Phenomena or the GEIPAN, the JPAN, has been investigating unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, for the past 45 ish years. And attached to the National Center for Space Studies, this French group has been invited by NASA to present its activities and working methods before a newly established independent team that will study data and set up methods to analyze unusual phenomena observed in the skies. I'm excited for this. As we know, NASA did create a UFO group. They're going to be researching UFOs for about 9 months, and then they're going to give that data out, hopefully to the public as well. So I think it's very cool, but also very interesting that they are branching out their like casting call or like their resources to say if other countries want to bring their input, please come along. So NASA very directly called over France. He's like, "Hey, France, I know you're doing some UFO research. Come on over." And I'm interested to see what information they're going to bring back after these 9 months of doing extensive research. With this French group, GPAN, and hopefully I'm saying that correctly, some of their information is actually available and it has been since I want to say 2006 or 2007. So if you type it up online, you will find a decent amount of their research that they conducted available to the public. So this group is a team of about 4 experts tasked with gathering witness accounts, and it was set up in 1977. So they conducted surveys, they were publishing studies, they were managing computer systems and overseeing the organization's operations. And a technical department at CNES, it relies on outside personnel, expertise, and talents, and kind of working with numerous investigators, experts, including NASA's Air Force as well, along with the police force, which I found really cool. Also working with the General for Civil Aviation and the National Center for Scientific Research and the Weather Service as well. So France is pulling in all of these different branches and different entities to collect all of this UFO information for the last 45 ish years. And once again, a lot of that information, I'm going to assume not all of it, but a lot of it is publicly available. And it seems like it's going a lot smoother than what the US is doing, where they're still kind of putting everything under wraps. We still haven't received our UAP report that we were, quote, promised on Halloween Day. We never got it, and we're still waiting. How much longer do we have to wait when other countries are blasting it out, such as France? Should we just move to France, guys? Gotta have some really nice pastries, which I really do like bread and pastries. So good, so delicious. The existence of a UFO force in France has entered the country's popular imagination in recent years with the Canal Plus comedy drama series OVNIs, the French term for UFOs, also the Spanish term for UFOs as well. In its quest for realism, the series depicts equipment used for this French group investigations, including the Sim OVNI, which we use to create simulations of the phenomenon described in eyewitness accounts. Very cool. That was a quote. So when I said we, I meant that French group, not actually me. I'm not a part of that, which I wouldn't mind. If I spoke French, I'd be a part of it. But my French is incredibly limited. Like when I say incredibly limited, I know like 3 words. So don't quiz me on my French. Thank you. However, some of the 1,600 reports sightings with this French group, these files still remain a mystery. And this is what's been called type D aerospace phenomena, meaning out of so many reports, a handful of them are unexplained, just like what we saw in the UAP preliminary report in June of 2021. There was that category of, yeah, we have no idea what these things are. It doesn't match any of these other categories like weather balloons and Venus and trash and all the stuff. It doesn't fit in any of those categories, meaning it's in a type D, unknown. We don't know, which is obviously my favorite category to look into, the unknown. But I will state, while I have been researching this topic for quite some time, I'm really not familiar with other countries, at least not yet. So, looking into this UFO group in France, I'm like, huh, I need to do more research on this. I need to look more into this because so many countries have the same fascination as the US does. It's not a one country thing. Everyone's into it. And I really like that. And I wish that more UFO researchers would look at it with the more international lens. That's what I want to do at least. But what about you? How many of you were familiar with this group, the GPAN? I'd like to know. Let's see how many of you know. Isn't Italy also transparent on UFOs? Um I'm not too sure. I know that I do have a UFO group as well. I don't know how public that information is. I will look into that though, Hyde. I think that's a great kind of question or something to kind of nudge at for sure. Rose, me neither. It was new to me. I'm happy we're on the same page. Well, oops. Well, then while we move on over, excuse me, let's get into our next article because I have so many and we're just blowing through the time. So, as many of you know, my regular viewers and listeners, you know how much I love cats. Like, I love cats so much, it hurts my heart. I also really like Chihuahua videos as well, like the really angry ones, super cute. But I have this affinity with cats. And I came across this one, which is so strange but hilarious. So the TSA found a cat in a suitcase while getting into the JFK airport. So, and it was really funny about this article in particular, which I will mention that all the links to these articles will be in the description box below once this live show is over. So if you want to read this article verbatim, it's actually hilarious because there's so many cat puns in it that it made me laugh so hard. But the TSA at the New York's John F. Kennedy Airport noticed kind of like orange fluff poking out of a slightly unzipped suitcase. And it made them pause, being like, what's this fluffy thing in the suitcase? And then if you've been to the airport before, you know that if you have any type of carry-on, it goes through this kind of x-ray little machine and the TSA is able to see overall the content that is inside of this. And this is the picture that was taken of this suitcase. And you can see a cat taking up half the space of this small carry-on suitcase. And this took place November 16th, so really not too long ago. And the TSA spokesperson tweeted on Tuesday, quote, "On the bright side, the cat's out of the bag. Wink." I mean, oh, that I found that so funny and so tasteful, but also hilarious. So the passenger was like, "I didn't know my cat was in there. I actually think it snuck into my suitcase right after I finished packing it or before I finished packing it, and I didn't realize that the cat was in there." So that could go one of two ways. Either this person was telling the truth because we know how mischievous cats are and they love little tight places like suitcases, or she was really trying to smuggle a cat into the airport. Which one do you think it was? Do you think it was a total accident? Or do you think it was intentional? Which I would say if it was intentional and she was a cat lover, she wouldn't do that because as you can tell of the all the other contents in the suitcase, you have a bunch of bottles and that looks like a flip-flop to me. It would obviously hurt the cat and then putting the cat, in like the baggage on top of your seat in the airplane, it'll just be a mess and then just start hearing this cat meowing, right? Going meow meow meow, this hurts so much for whatever reason. So I think overall, this person didn't do it intentionally. At least I hope not, because it doesn't look good for her, for the cat, for anybody. But there are so many puns in this article. If you do want to read it, you'll laugh. It's very funny. Everyone has a story to share after this for sure. Oh my gosh, without a doubt. Could you imagine your next Thanksgiving encounter? You're like, hey, mom, hey, dad, hey, siblings, guess what happened last year? Yeah, I got in trouble by the TSA because they said I smuggled a cat when I didn't, and they opened the suitcase and I actually smuggled a cat. Ah, it's too funny. I have seen videos of people telling stories that they smuggled like tiny kittens, but actually like in their clothing while they're getting scanned and how it doesn't get caught. And they were able to like take this tiny little kitten through the airport onto I don't even remember where they went, but it went viral at some point like a year or two ago. And so people do it. It's a thing, but it's not a common thing. Dope Nose says humans domesticated dogs, cats domesticated humans. Yes, I agree with this very much. But I still love cats with all of my heart. Even if they scratch me or avoid me, I will still love them. Dad says cats would definitely pull something like that. Yes, they would. I wish my cat would do that if I had one. I don't anymore, but I used to. Moving on to our next one. It's a nice short article. Hyde says, wine bottles and a cat. Come on, lady. It's the best combination for many people. Moving on to our next one. So, as we know, we're coming close to the end of the year. We're already knocking on the door of December. And as I say every year, I can't believe it's already December. I'm blown away by how fast the year flew by. But I think we should cover some of the most bizarre crimes that actually happened in 2022. I have a few, they're pretty funny. And I have a few pictures for them as well. Deranged Lunatic, thank you so much for the super sticker. I do appreciate that. All right, so let me share my screen here. One of these crimes we've actually covered here on Weekly Strange News. If you are a new listener, you might find this article super intriguing. Well, let me read this one to you. So, probably one of the most bizarre crimes of 2022 was by fisherman Larry Sanders. In July, he and his fellow fisherman Jimmy Glenn Knight were noodling at the South Canadian River in the southeast of Canada. And later that day, Sanders came home alone and told his daughter that he actually murdered his fishing buddy. And not much is really known about what was said on their trip, except that Sanders told the officers that Knighton had summoned Bigfoot to come and kill Sanders, the guy in this picture right here. This is actually a mugshot. And so Knighton reportedly tried to get away to save himself after baiting Bigfoot, but Sanders, not wanting to be left alone with the infamous forest monster, proceeded to attack his fishing buddy. And the two men then got into a fight near the river until Sanders successfully strangled Knighton to death and left his body in the woods. Let me back that up a little bit. Let me just summarize this for you. This man right here that we're looking at, Sanders, he said, my fishing buddy summoned Bigfoot to kill me. That's not going to happen. Knighton, you're gonna be the bait for Bigfoot, and I'm gonna make it out alive. That's a pretty wild story. We covered it in more detail in July when this article was actually released here on Weekly Strange News. And yeah, my thoughts on it are still the same. It is wild. Well, there are a few more articles that I have for you relating to this. So, this next one was a new one to me. I've never heard this one. So, a woman, she wanted to buy a baby at Walmart. Now, not the toy babies that you see in the toy section. No, she wanted to buy a real human baby that she saw walking with the kid's mom. Does that make sense what I'm saying? This woman that we're looking at right here, Rebecca Lynette Taylor, wanted to buy a real tiny child. So her strange crime began at a self-checkout line at Walmart where a woman with a baby with blonde hair and blue eyes was about to pay. The baby's appearance must have caught Taylor's attention because then she asked the mother, "Hey, do you mind if I buy your baby?" Said, "Okay." Yeah. She asked the mother permission to buy this baby. And the mother at first, kind of laughed it off, thinking it was a joke. But then Taylor, she named her price. She's like, 250 grand. And that's how much I'm going to give you for your tiny one. And she's like, I already have my money ready. You want the money right now? I can give it to you. Well, of course, the mother told Taylor that obviously her baby wasn't for sale. I mean, come on. But that didn't stop Miss Taylor that we're looking at right here. And then both parties went to the parking lot, and apparently, allegedly, Taylor went berserk, stating, "You know what? You want more money? I'll give you $500,000 for your kid. 500 grand. Just hand him over." And the mother was stating, "Are you out of your mind? No, I am not going to sell my baby to you." And even weirder was the fact that Taylor happened to know the child's name and was even calling it out. Taylor had an accomplice, and both were reported to the authorities. She was arrested on January 18th with the felony charge of sale or purchase of a child. Tyler Taylor later denied the allegations and stating that she was only minding her own business at Walmart and merely there to buy puppy pads for her Pomeranian. This one was news to me. I found this so obscure. It is so strange that of course we had to cover it today, even though it did happen in January. We're going to touch on just a few of the most bizarre crime cases that happened in 2022 as this year is coming to a close. Jeez. It is, Mark says, I remember reading that. I wish I was up to date on this one. It's unbelievable. Jessica says she looks like she escaped from somewhere where people in white are looking for her. She looks a little wild in this photo. And if you read the title, it's like she's only gonna buy just a regular baby at Walmart, which many people do, especially during the season, December, January-ish, right? But no, she wanted to buy a real one. If I was the mother, I would be mortified, terrified, because you also don't know the mindset of this person or anyone like this as well, where they might be having a weapon on them, or they would resort to some type of violence if they don't get what they want. So it's a very tense situation. It is very scary. So I do recommend literally anyone, no basic self-defense. Have something that you can just be ready to whack someone with if you have to. My dad taught me, like, if you're in a parking lot right at night and you have your keys, put the keys in every single of your fingers so that you're just ready, just to be safe. I obviously am not supporting any type of violence, but you do want to protect yourself, but also to be mindful as well. Always look at your surroundings, no matter what. Always look for the nearest exit wherever you are, even if you feel super safe surrounded by your friends and family. That doesn't mean that they will protect you all the time. So always be mindful wherever you are with whoever you're with. And don't let something like this happen to you if you can avoid it. I have one more very strange one before we continue with our next article. Let me share my screen here in just a moment. How many of you know this face? This face was new to me. I've never seen this guy before. But this man is called, I'm going to pull up his name. His name is John R. Tyson, the chief financial officer of the Tyson Company, where you get all your chicken nuggets and chicken tenders, right? The Tyson brand. Well, not only is he the great grandson of the original owner, he's also the chief financial officer. Well, there's a pretty interesting story about this man right here. And in the early hours of November 6th, excuse me, which is not too long ago, the Tyson heir wandered drunkenly into a home that wasn't his, took off his clothes, and fell asleep in a stranger's bed. The resident of the home called the police and said that Tyson was likely able to enter since the door had been unlocked. However, he was still charged with public intoxication and criminal trespassing. Arresting him was another matter, though. After the police were trying to wake him up, Tyson went right back to sleep, apparently still drunk. So, I mean, first of all, that's terrible no matter who you are. You're going into someone's house, you think it's yours, and you fall asleep on their bed. You take off your clothes, and then the owner of the house gets in, they're ready to go to bed, ready for some sleep, and they see a stranger in there. But it's even worse for John Tyson because he is part of such a big company. So, of course, this was clearly a headache for the Tyson brand. And of course, this man apologized to the investors days later, saying that he was embarrassed and he promised not to repeat the behavior. But despite saying the right words, it had not been a great start for someone who was just given his CFO job in September. So he hadn't even been 2 months on the job and he was already arrested. That's pretty darn bad. So he was already scrutinized enough for not having a sufficient amount of experience to be holding this job that he has now. But now he's even on a shorter leash where everyone around him just does not trust this guy at all because who knows if this could happen again, and it makes the entire company look really, really bad. This news article was very new to me, even though it was just released November 6th, but I feel a little bad for it. That sucks. But it also goes to show that if you are going to drink alcohol, make sure that you are surrounded by some friends that can take you back home. Have one designated driver, especially during the season. Make sure to have one person, have at least one friend that's not a drinker that can very safely take you back home because you don't want this to happen to your friend or your family member or your coworker. No, it's embarrassing to everyone. And I feel kind of bad. It's a kind of a sad story, but it is a big one as well. Marty says time for rehab. Jessica says, did he go to the wrong house and thought he was in his own home? I think that's the case. I think that is what happened. But for the homeowner, he didn't lock his doors either. So it's a mistake on both their behalves. But mm, Oh my gosh. Charles says, I walked into an apartment that wasn't mine once and sat on the couch, and the deal was like, "What's up, man?" That's funny. Hopefully that encounter didn't go so bad. I'm gonna hope it didn't, but um, it is pretty terrible. Well, that is it for my strange crimes of 2022. I do have a few more articles because we do have more time, and this one is very cool. It is a new smart band aid. So, a lot of us hurt ourselves, have it be in the kitchen or doing sports or I don't know, like raking the leaves. And sometimes we scratch ourselves because we know how sensitive our skin is. And it makes me wish sometimes to have like super hard skin, like an insect or something, right? Because you could do literally anything and then you just cut up your very soft, tender little meat suit. And it really annoys me. Well, there's this new smart band aid that apparently helps heal wounds 25% faster than traditional methods by stimulating tissue to enhance recovery. So scientists have created this smart band-aids that uses electrical currents to heal wounds 25% faster than traditional means. The smart band-aid is composed of wireless circuitry that uses the flow of electrical currents and temperature sensors to monitor the progression of wound healing. This is 1,000% in our future. I expect to find these at Walgreens at least, at the absolute least, by like 2040. If it's longer than that, I'm going to be rather disappointed. The same way that I'm disappointed that we do not have flying cars yet that are publicly available like we expected to happen in the year 2000. And we never got those. I'm very disappointed in that. So I am expecting these smart band-aids to be publicly available by the absolute least 2040. Write that down. Hold me to it. I don't have control over this, but I would like it to be by that time. Obviously, less time if that's possible, but seeing how our progression is with technology at this point in time, I don't have high hopes. That'd be very cool though. I would like that very much. So, the high tech device promotes faster closure of wounds, increasing new blood flow to injured tissue, and enhances skin recovery by significantly reducing scar formation. Excuse me. Gotta drink some water. Water. My mom makes fun of me of saying it like that. Water, not water. Well, this was actually published on November 24th, which was yesterday, and by Stanford University. So it's still kind of under wraps. That was a dad joke right there. And it's still kind of going under testing right now. So we will see the progression of how it goes, how it's accepted by the medical field, and what else needs to be done to allow there to be enough funding, right, to make it a more universal product to actually buy at the stores. But while this article is short, and you can find the link below, it is very interesting to see that we're having faster healing band aids. Scientists are now creating a type of skin that artificial skin that can heal itself the way that our skin can, along with being stretchy enough to put over robots. Excuse me. And it is kind of weird a little bit when it comes to like robots and making them look super fleshy with like actually like a fleshy skin that if they cut themselves they could heal. Pretty weird, but it is in our future and that's something that we just simply can't deny. In the same case with these healing band-aids, if anything, I should have expected these sooner. They should already be in our pharmacies by 2022. I mean, come on. Come on. Sorry, my throat. I do apologize. Excuse me. Good thing we have a mute button. Otherwise, that would just be terrible on the ears if you have headphones. But I don't know why my throat's just being so dumb. Okay, but if if you were to see something like this at the store right now at the pharmacy, would you buy one? Especially for our tiny little ones, right? The kids that are always hurting themselves and scratching their knees and things like this because they're kind of just having fun. I would definitely buy these for kids for sure if I had little ones and be like, all right, there you go. Now you're going to heal a little bit faster, which, to be honest, our skin and our kind of like flesh wounds, they heal pretty fast. It's pretty remarkable, honestly. But for it to heal 25% faster, I'm shocked. I'm in. I want one. I want many, actually, because this this meat suit, this very sensitive flesh, it's always bleeding and it's upsetting. But what about you? Would you get one of these? Let's see. I want my hoverboard. Like from Back to the Future. I know. I'm with you on that one, Scott. I am. Cortisone cream is the best. I have like so many bottles in the bathroom. Love them. Your Borg future, says Vihar. Kind of, yeah. We're getting there. If it leaves no scars, I'm going to assume it doesn't. I'm not sure. That is a great point to make. But I'm just going to go into the assumption side that it shouldn't create scars. Full Auto says robots should never look human. I'm totally with you. But as we've seen in Blade Runner, that's not going to happen. And as we know from the articles that we've actually covered here on Weekly Strange News, people are really pushing robots to make them look more realistic so that us humans can attempt to relate to them a little bit better, to actually hold a conversation so that they can help us through like customer service and things like this. That is the scientist's mentality, is looking at it at a psychological standpoint, is that if they look more like us, we'll be able to have a better conversation and seek better help. Versus like, when you're on the phone, and you call like one of these big companies, even USPS. I despise calling USPS, right? And then, or like the internet provider, and they have an automated system. And it says, would you like one? Whatever, like the location, two, the hours, three, and it just goes through this whole row, and you're like, I just need customer support. I need to speak to a real person. And then it doesn't give you that option until the very end. So you never know what button to press because it's not always zero anymore on the phone. But if you were to have a robot that looks like you, that can hold a basic conversation using AI, right? You would feel a bit more confident, feeling like that you're being helped by these entities. But with you, just like you, full auto, I am not for it. I don't want to see that in my lifetime. Will I? Probably. Do I want to? No, not really. I'm going to pass on that one. Deranged says, I walked my TARDIS. I want a TARDIS, which the new Doctor Who with David Tennant, I am so excited. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. It's going to be so awesome. But I know I'm not the only one that's it. Looking forward to having him back. Even if it was only for a few episodes, I think he is the doctor. Like, he is the best doctor of the new generation. That is an opinion. Once again, I don't share too often, but I'm going to share it right now. David Tennant is the best doctor of the new generation. Let me know in the live chat, which one is your favorite doctor? Matt Smith is also pretty good. The first one of the new gen was also really good, and his name escapes me, and I feel so bad for saying that. He was also great. I liked him as well. Love Doctor Who, says Jessica. Same. I was never a Doctor Who fan, says Casper. That's okay. It's not for everyone, but it gives the adults a place to escape, I think, especially for me. I'm a rather new Whovian. I just started watching it a few years back. And I think that it not only allows me to escape into this type of like magical kind of fantasy, even though there is no magic involved, it's all related to science and time travel and things like this. It also kind of gives me hope in some aspects of like there is so much more mystery in the world. There is so much that we don't understand. And it could be very well that we can allow ourselves to muse about these other extraterrestrials that are either visiting or that occupy other parts of the universe, and that they have their own civilizations going for them. They have their own trade systems and all of this stuff. And for those writers and those researchers, I would like to say those writers need researchers such as ourselves that are somewhat knowledgeable in the topic. You can't just bring this out of thin air and write a script, because there is a lot of science involved and they do explain that. There is a lot of conspiracies as well, and there's also a lot of things that have been documented in our past but that are kind of been brushed off by society as a whole. So you need those researchers to create those scripts, and Doctor Who is has been a thriving TV show since it started. So I do love it. Love that escape. Casper says, Christina, have you watched Andor? No, I haven't. Also never heard of it. Sorry. I'll look at it at some point, maybe, if I have the time. Jessica, thank you so much. It says Doctor Who and Doctor Strange are the best doctors ever. Yeah, they are. They are really good. I really do like Doctor Strange, that new one about the multiverse. Great. So good. Oh, and Doctor Evil. You can't forget Doctor Evil. I agree with you. Also another great one. So funny. Jonathan says David Tennant was my favorite with Matt Smith, a second, but after that I lost interest. Valid. But now so many Whovians are coming back with David Tennant, which is gonna be so awesome. Moving on to our next article, we have about 15 minutes left, maybe a little bit more than that because I was MIA for like several minutes. But let's move on over. We're gonna skip that one actually because we don't have too much time left. I'm gonna skip that one too. Okay, so as many of you know that are my regular viewers and listeners, somehow, in some way, I never know how it always pops up, but somehow we always talk about snakes. Now, I'm not saying I'm a snake fanatic. I'm not saying that I love or don't like snakes, but there's always just a super strange article every single week that talks about snakes. And I don't know why, I just can't avoid it. Well, I have an article for you. I'm going to share my screen here as a visual aid of a cobra snake. Let's take a look at this. Also, the picture aesthetic is beautiful. You have a nice kind of sandy brown snake on sand with a nice kind of brownish background as well that is blurred. I really like the aesthetic of this photo. Nothing to do with the article. I just wanted to say that. Well, this snake, not this one in particular, but a cobra bites a boy and the boy bites back. Isn't that a really interesting title? Don't worry, the boy was fine, but the snake wasn't. So the boy survived the bite. It seems after this 8-year-old boy in India was bitten by this cobra, it was actually a dry bite, meaning that there was no venom injected into the boy's skin. However, the boy was like, "You gonna bite me? No, I'm gonna bite you back." Instant karma right there. And so he bites this snake not once, but twice because the 8-year-old boy, his name is Deepak, he was trying to like shake his leg, removing the snake, and the snake wouldn't budge. And he says, what's the next best thing I can do? I can bite him. And that's exactly what he did twice. Uh, so it is a very interesting article. Now, the encounter of this incident, the The species of this cobra is unknown, meaning that they weren't able to locate what kind of cobra actually bit him, but they are aware that it was once again just a dry bite, meaning no venom was injected into this boy's bloodstream, into his skin, and all that kind of terrible stuff. Well, Deepak mentioned to local media that it just happened in a flash. It was just my instinct to bite into him. And as Charles says, Cobra Commander, that is a sweet name. And I hope he's called that with his friends and family where he is, because it seems only appropriate to have that name after being a just such a cool guy biting a cobra twice. Dang. Yeah, Russell, talk about karma. That is exactly what I said. Instant karma right there. It's crazy. Well, Deepak's family rushed him to the nearby hospital where he was treated with antivenom, but doctors say that the bite likely did not contain any venom, even though the snake was probably venomous. And every year, around 5.4 million snake bites from venomous and non venomous species occur worldwide, according to a 2020 review published in the journal Toxins. Approximately 2.7 million of those bites inject venom into the victim, which causes around 100 ish thousand deaths. It is hard to tell exactly how many snake bites from venomous species are dry bites because victims can often misidentify which type of snake actually bit them. And because dry bites can still cause inflammation, which can be misdiagnosed as a venomous bite. So it is kind of difficult to do significant research onto that because your body still reacts even if there's venom or not. Well, in India, it is home of around 100 species of venomous or mildly venomous snakes, and with venomous snakes killing an estimated 46,000 people every single year. That's a pretty high number of people that are victims to snake bites. So, looking at those stats, this boy, Deepak, 8 years old in India, was super lucky to not have been too harmed by this cobra to the point where he bit him twice. I mean, so cool. This kid is so cool, and he's gonna tell that story to his grandkids, and then his grandkids are gonna tell his great grandkids. It's gonna be a legend for him and his whole family lineage. This is how cool stories come about because you know what? Grandparents always have the coolest stories. Have them be fabricated or not, grandparents, they just knock it out of the park with things that happened to them as a child or as a young adult. Well, this boy right here, Deepak, he's got a story for his grandkids, and it's going to be the coolest grandparent of all time. I love stories, all types of stories. They're all so much fun. I don't care who's telling them to me. Love them all. Charles says, people got it wrong. Snakes don't taste like chicken. I don't know, never had one, but I have been seeing that in the comments that people talking about how snakes taste like chicken or vice versa for Daniel. Chicken tastes like snake. Nice. Very funny. Well, chicken tastes like gator. I didn't know that either. I don't know too much about these things, but I'm always willing to learn. I'll learn anything and I'll try anything, any type of food once, unless it has pickles. I will not eat anything that has pickles. I just can't. They're not for me. Could my taste buds change in the future? Absolutely. But at this point in time, I just can't do pickles. Also, olives. Don't like those either. They're not my cup of tea. Well, I have a few more articles for you, but I think we only have time for about one more. So I'm looking to see which one we should cover today before we finish off weekly strange news. Let me look. Ooh, well, I'm not going to cover that one. I'm just actually very briefly touch on this one. Have you ever heard of leap second? Like seconds, right? I've never heard of this. We've heard of leap year, we've heard of, the time change, leap forward, spring backward, whatever. I cannot stand daylight savings time. I know it was created in the mindset of keeping kids safe when going to school and coming back from school, so it's still in the daytime when the sun is out, but it is so confusing, daylight savings time. But we are talking about leap second. This was new to me, and it's going to be abolished in 19 no, sorry, in 2035. So leap second is going to end in 2035. So last week, at an international coalition of scientists and government agencies voted to retire the dated timekeeping system, which will officially end in 2035. The decision was made November 18th during a general conference in France, responsible for the global timekeeping. So, similar to leap years, leap seconds are a measure of time that get added periodically to clocks to make up for the difference between astronomical time, also known as Earth's rotation, and coordinated universal time, which is based on the atomic clock. So, as the Earth's rotation continues to slow down, it accumulates 1 minute of delay each century and 1 hour of delay every 5,000 years, which is a long period of time. This was first introduced in 1972. Leap seconds have long been the bane of timekeepers' existence and have increasingly come under pressure for elimination as highly used technologies such as satellite navigation, computer networks, and telecommunication and aviation increasingly demand extreme accuracy in timekeeping, which is totally understandable. So, at its inception of 50 years ago, 10 leap seconds were added to the atomic timescale in the years since. 27 more additions have been made whenever the two time systems drifted apart by more than zero point 0.9 seconds, according to the New York Times. The addition of leap seconds has created its own host of issues and can result in technical difficulties that can affect everything from financial transactions to energy transmissions. Wow. And even how astronomers align their telescopes. So, this is a big deal. While it sounds like it's so minuscule, right? And just like it's so little, it makes a big difference to a lot of people. And so it will be abolished in 2035. This was news to me. I had never heard of leap seconds. A leap year, I already find confusing enough that we only get once every 4 years. But now we have this. And just like this one that will be abolished in 2035, I also hope daylight savings time will also leave us because every year, twice a year, you got to change your clocks. And I bet you so many people are late to work on those 2 days. Ah, just bothers my mind. Daz says, why 2035? I wonder. There has to be a good reason. Maybe they want to like round it off on the kind of an area where they started ish to like get that perfect timing of some sort. There has to be a reason to why it's ending then, but it's lasted so long since 1972, which is the same time that daylight savings time kind of came around in the 1970s to my understanding. It's just a bad time, really. 1970s, full of bad ideas. Jessica says there should be 30 days in February. I know, right? Why 28? I don't know. There has to be a good reason for it. There has to be a good reason. Well, out of all the articles that we covered today, which one was your favorite? We covered a good amount of articles today. We did have that little blimp of an internet outage on my side. I do want to apologize for that. But thank you for everyone that still sat tight with me and that waited for me to come back, because that is a nightmare for any host. I would like to mention that next Tuesday on Shifting the Paradigm, I will have Bigfoot researcher and investigator Emily Fleur. Don't want to miss it. We cover a lot of fascinating topics, and she's one of the younger voices in the in the paranormal and Bigfoot field. She's in her 20s, just like myself. So her take on the Bigfoot phenomenon and her perspective is rather unique to maybe those that you've heard in the past. Please make sure to like this video before you head out. I would like to thank all of my amazing moderators, everyone watching this live, all the super chats, super stickers, YouTube members, and Patreon subscribers. I simply could not do this without you. And I would like to mention that all of the funds are going straight into the RV fund. So as soon as I graduate college, I'll be able to purchase an RV and travel the United States, hitting all of the UFO and paranormal hotspots and documenting all of it right here for you. I want to wish you all a wonderful week. Be safe. And remember, keep your eyes on the skies.